Alright, so our first story, as I said, these are going to come from the Daily Wire, but it's about Bill Maher. That's our Joe Scarborough movie up there for our one we're going to look at. But LGBT network head says Bill Maher should be cancelled following his latest remarks questioning increase in gender identifying as children identifying as transgender. Now, I don't know why the Daily Wire puts such long headlines. They're just kind of really long there. But let's look just a little bit at this, and we'll see what was said here. All right, the head of the LGBT network, David Kilmnick, said Bill Maher should be canceled following his latest remarks on his show questioning the increase in young people identifying as transgender, calling his comments harmful, homophobic, and more. Okay, let's continue. It says, in an article featured in Advocate magazine, under the headline, Bill Maher has gone too far with anti-LGBTQ comments. Kilmnick, if I'm getting his name wrong, sorry, said Maher's HBO show, Real Time with Bill Maher, needs to be canceled after his vitriolic commentary. So the question there is, what did Bill Maher say that was so bad? Now, one of the interesting things here is Bill Maher, he's not conservative. Since he's in the States, he's not Republican. He's liberal, and he is very liberal. But at the same time, I guess he's just not liberal enough because he didn't go along with whatever this is. Now, I'm not going to play the clip. HBO is usually a little more uptight about copyrights, despite the fact that everything I use on the show, either I paid for copyright license for or it falls under the fair use. But I'm not going to play it. But you can find it I just typed in Bill Maher trans monologue on YouTube, and I found it. It's the segment is called Along for the Pride. So it's New Rule Along for the Pride. You go with Real Time with Bill Maher. Now, I don't watch Bill Maher. I'll tell you that right now. Up until now, I knew he had a talk show kind of thing, but I never really follow it because everybody and their mom has a talk show now. Like, face it, technically, this is almost a talk show, except I don't have guests. It's just me. All my guests are pre-recorded. But apparently he said something that is so bad that they want him canceled. They want him off the air. And even in the article, it'll talk about the fact that this person is calling for all those of the LGBTQ community to boycott HBO. To boycott HBO until they cancel him. And let's go back and read a little bit more. It says, Kilmnick wrote that he has spent over 3 decades fighting for the rights of LGBT communities, particularly safe spaces for youth. Not Bill Maher, Kilmnick. There we go. Has. And he said, what they don't need are rants on a platform like Bill Maher's show, which pose the greatest risk to LGBTQ youth safety and well-being. Okay, so Bill Maher's rant is the greatest risk? Wait a minute. I thought Republicans were. I thought Christianity was. I thought everything is the greatest risk to LGBTQ youth safety and well-being. Everything is. And yeah, it's that dramatic language. And we're going to see what was so hateful about Bill Maher's comments. So I'm not going to cover everything, but I'll give you kind of the highlights because they're here in the article too. And he says, back in 1993, he says, I would chalk this up to ignorance and truly believe education would help to critically think and change, and it did, Kilmnick wrote. But today is different, and the alarm bell is ringing loud. The onslaught of attacks legislatively and in the media against our community goes well beyond ignorance. It is hateful, purposeful, and intentional. We need to wake up and be smart in our fight, as all other LGBTQ youth need us now more than ever. I'm sorry, I'm reading that in a dramatic voice, but this is what he's writing. We need to speak up and hold everyone accountable, even those who purport to be liberal and progressive. That'd be Bill Maher. He added, that's why I'm calling for the LGBTQ plus community and supporters of LGBTQ plus youth to boycott HBO until Real Time with Bill Maher is removed from its platform. Maher has gone too far. Yeah, it seems, I know I read that, as I said, with dramatic voice, but I think that's kind of what he's calling for. I think that's how he's writing. He's calling about the removal, that he said something that is so hateful, so disgusting, that he needs to be removed, that Bill Maher, he is not far enough on the left. So what exactly did Bill Maher say that was so hateful, that is so damaging? Is he going out and calling for the eradication of youth who are caught up in the LGBTQ movement? Is he going out and saying, I want you to strip the humanity from those who are struggling with the issue of transgenderism? Is he saying that he's calling for the hanging of anybody who identifies in that community? No, he's not. So what exactly did Bill Maher say? What was so hateful about it? Let's see what he said. During last week's Real Time with Bill Maher, the host said, it was not out of the realm to question what is going on, asking, all the babies are in the wrong bodies? And it's okay to ask questions about something that's new and involves children, Maher said. The answer can't always be that anyone from a marginalized community is automatically right. Trump card, mic drop, end of discussion. Because we're literally experimenting on children. The host pointed out that countries like Finland and Sweden no longer allow puberty blockers to be administered to children, and said common sense suggests there's going to be problems when doctors try to reverse the course of raging hormones. So yeah, what Bill Maher was actually suggesting, and he actually talks a lot more, but it's just the basic of it, was questioning the facts, questioning the reality. There's nothing in there that he says that is absolutely hateful. At one point, he pulls up a graph, and he's using humor. Whether you appreciate his humor or not is a little irrelevant on this one. There's no coarse language here. But he pulls up a chart and shows that, showing the gradual increase, or should I say the exponential increase, of those who are suddenly identifying as LGBTQ. And he starts by going back like to 1940, he calls it the silent generation, was like 0.8, then the baby boomers was 2.6, then Generation X was 4.2, then millennials has jumped to 10.5%, and then Generation Z is 20.8%. All of a sudden, there's this skyrocketing of people who are identifying as LGBTQ. And he's saying, is it wrong for us to ask what is happening here? And then he said, if that continued on, he makes the joke that he says, by the year 2060, everybody's going to be gay. He's using a joke there. But he's saying that's how the exponential growth is going. Using a chart, marking the numbers and showing how they're growing. Because if you look, they more than doubled from 1940 to 1960. And then they went up again by almost another 2%. And then it more than doubled from Generation X to millennials. And then it doubled again to Gen Z. And he's saying, what is going on? And that's where you get the statement. Now, the article just kind of jumps into it. About this rise of transgenderism, and everybody's rising in transgender. And he says, what? Are all these babies suddenly born in the wrong body? Now, he's not being hateful. He's asking a question. And I don't think it's a bad question to ask. I think it's a very good one. He's asking, what is going on? And then he even talks about the effects of puberty blockers. The scientific facts of puberty blockers, such as the fact that puberty blockers actually stop the bone density growth in children. They really do. Well, they have to. The Washington Post made the statement that the Endocrine Society warns that the treatment, that's puberty blockers, may compromise fertility later in life. That's a fact. And then even Dr. Marcy Bells, who deals with these things, who is a transgender themselves, said they may never experience what it means to reach the ultimate pleasure in sexual gratification of an orgasm. because of puberty blockers. In other words, he's saying, let's just stop for a second and ask the questions. And remember, he's not conservative. He's not Bible-based. He's nothing. He's just saying, let's stop and ask the questions. And ultimately, what are they calling for him? For him to be removed, for him to be canceled. How dare he insinuate or dare ask the question to say, is it wrong to ask questions of what's going on? Because no, it is right. And part of what I do on this show, and you know, I haven't even touched the Bible in this first segment, but it really comes down to the fact is asking questions and seeing, does the worldview that they propose actually answer the questions? And see, what you have here is Bill Maher, who is a supportive of LGBTQ. He's supportive of the whole community. Is him saying, let's stop and ask the questions. And then he points out about the gay pride event that's coming up. Now, I can't wait. Next month, gay pride events. It's being pushed already. And it will be. But he pointed out that of the, in this particular one, you can go watch the video, because I'm just kind of recounting this from memory a little bit here, pointing out that the spokesman of the big LGBTQ parade, there's not actually a gay man there. They're transgender. They're lesbians and they're transgender. There's no actual gay men. It's like there's a whole community. And he makes the joke that apparently gay men just aren't hip enough for the crowd anymore. They're not enough for that community anymore. You see, and that's the issue. And what's going on here? And you really want to go, it's twofold here. And it's one that we covered. Train a child in the way they should go, and when they're older, they won't depart from it. This is what the LGBTQ is doing. Why is it that all of a sudden there's a whole group that is professing to be LGBTQ? Because you've made it cool, you've made it hip, you've made it stand out, and children are impressionable. And there's no secret that the greatest number of transgender is teenage girls. Why? Because it's the most confusing time in their life. Their body is changing, their hormones are out of whack, and they're getting messages at the same time. And this, you can see it in the media. Take a movie like Captain Marvel, which is actually probably, I don't know if it's my least or my second least favorite Marvel of the first three generations, of whatever they call it, of Marvel movies, until the end of Infinity War, I guess, or Endgame. And you look at her character. There's really nothing feminine about the character. There really isn't. There's nothing that shows her. She's basically, you're told that a strong woman is basically masculine. And I've seen memes and things that talk about, they're trying to say this thing, when a man is, when he's bossy, he's just considered assertive, but a woman's called bossy. Now, he's not. He's still bossy. He really is. But it's saying that the traits that are respected in a strong woman are basically what would be classified as typically masculine traits. And so they destroyed femininity. They have. And so a teenage girl growing up trying to figure out what does it mean to be a woman, she's not being taught what it means to be a woman. She's being taught that you basically need to be a man. And then they get confused. And then when they're having this confusion, they see that they get a round of applause. They see they get attention coming out as these communities, and then you get really confused things. Like you get, and this is actually documented, you will get teenagers who claim to be bisexual, yet there's nothing about them that's bisexual. Now, bisexualism is also a perversion. But basically, there's nothing about them. Like a female, she said, I'm bisexual, but she dates guys, she's interested in guys, she finds guys attractive. But classified as bisexual. Why? Because if they classify it, they get the attention. You see, what you're seeing here is that train the child in the way you should go. And two, the other thing you're seeing is a direct fulfillment of Romans chapter 1. As God continues to hand humanity over to a depraved heart, God hands them over to the wickedness of their own hearts, they're falling more and more into this depravity. And anybody who does not support it, anybody who dares question it, anybody who dares say, you know what, maybe there's something else going on here, says, I want to remove. This is what you're seeing. And you would see it in a baker who refused to make a wedding cake for homosexual couples. You saw it in a florist who refuses to provide flowers in celebration of a homosexual wedding. Now, it doesn't mean they didn't serve homosexual couples. They just didn't go far enough, is what it was. This is why you saw such kickback against the Florida bill, which says we don't want this taught to the youngest kids. Why? Because they're too impressionable. These same people who would say, and I've seen this argument, say you need to keep children out of churches so that they can make up their own mind because the churches are brainwashing kids, would have no problem with sticking them into an LGBTQ network where they're going to be brainwashed into that ideology. And what you're seeing here is not a battle of me versus you. It's not a battle of one person against another. It's the battle of the human heart and the human ideology against the ideology of Christ. But in the end, only one of these actually provides good answers. It is the Bible. It is Christ. That's the foundation that we need to buy on. That's the foundation we need to build in. That's what we need to do. So again, you can go watch that original one. Like I said, Bill Maher, look that up if you want. Bill Maher, New Rule, Along for the Pride. Bill Maher, Along for the Pride. And you will find his thing. Now, I never listened to him before, but that wasn't bad. So go ahead if you want. It's actually pretty clean, and it asks some questions. There's a couple of jokes in there that may be classified as off color, but just give it a PG warning there as well. Hey, I just want to thank you for watching. If you like the content, want to subscribe, like, tell a friend, get the word out. Also, if you want more content, you can follow me on YouTube, on Rumble, or you can even download the Foundation with Steve Teed podcast and Take Me on the Go, found on almost all podcast apps. This couldn't happen without you, and I encourage you, build on a strong foundation.